What's up everybody, and welcome to another edition of AGR'S Pop Culture Reviews. So it took me a little bit longer to get through this review just because I didn't want to rush it and really wanted to take my time with this game, and holy shit, have I been in the mind of madness. There is a lot of crazy stuff that's going on in Hope County. I mentioned this before in my review of the Netflix original series Stranger Things, in that I was both fascinated and terrified of small town life. Frankly, it scares the piss out of me, mostly because it seems that small towns really seem to hide a lot of secrets. There are a lot of parts of the United States that are very rural, and in actuality, very easy to get cut off from the rest of the United States. Now, Hope County, Montana is a textbook example of everything that can possibly go wrong given the right circumstances. Beneath the veneer of the cascading mountain ranges, the deep green, heavily forested valleys, the vast stretches of farmland, and pristine lakes, there is something very disturbing about Hope County. And just for shits and giggles, add into that mix a charismatic cult leader with delusions of doomsday prophecy and an entire army of religious zealots at his disposal, and you have something that is completely terrifying. And I don't know about you guys, but that piqued my interest very early on in the game. So, having said all that, this is my official review of Far Cry 5. Let's take a closer look. As I alluded to before, Far Cry 5 takes a bit of a departure from what we have traditionally known from the series. Instead of taking place on some exotic island resort or the mountains of Nepal, it chooses instead to take place in rural America, specifically Hope, Montana. And although many fans of the series might think this is a step in the wrong direction, it actually is pretty interesting and a natural progression for the series, not to mention that it doesn't make the world seem smaller. This time around you play as a deputy who's tasked with bringing in a cult religious leader named Joseph Seed. Now, he's not as interesting as, say, Voss, but to be fair to the series, nobody is as interesting as Voss, or as charismatic. I guess the main issue that I have with Joseph Seed is that he's kind of an amalgamation, almost a caricature, of various cult leaders in history, like Jim Jones or David Koresh, and there's a lot of cliched story and dialogue, and it just didn't work that well for me. Now, it doesn't mean that it's bad, it just means that it's tired, and it sticks to a lot of common tropes. Now, one of the main departures we see from other Far Cry titles is that Ubisoft gives you the option of choosing your gender. Now, this is not exactly revolutionary, most open world games have been doing this forever, but it is the first for a Far Cry game, and it's nice that they did this. Now, the character creation model in Far Cry 5 is pretty rudimentary, there's not much sophistication to it. I think it only gives you up to 8 facial sculpts, which is pretty bare bones to be honest with you. The hair creation model is equally rudimentary, only offering about 4 color shades and about 24 hairstyles, which may seem like a lot, but when we compare it to other games in this genre, it is pretty limited. The clothing and outfit character model is actually pretty robust, and you can customize your character in various ways, some that are pretty interesting. But what makes this kind of bizarre is the fact that you never actually see your avatar unless you get killed in a firefight, which makes this a little bit jarring. I mean, I don't understand why they put so much effort into this when you never actually see your avatar anyway. It just seems kind of pointless. Gaining equipment and weaponry has also been changed here. Gone are the days where you had to actually go out and craft things in order to upgrade your character. Instead, now you can buy them directly from the store, and you can find these various shop owners throughout the county. Similar to other Far Cry games, looting is essential in order for you to gain in-game dollars so that you can upgrade your weapons and armor. Access to weapons and supplies has been severely streamlined here. You get that nice weapon wheel, and you can actually craft from this weapon wheel directly. The maps have also been much more decluttered than previous titles. One of the criticisms I had before was that you had so many points of interest that it was often sensory overload, and it was a little bit jarring to look at. The world of Far Cry 5 is stunningly beautiful, and the only complaint I really have about it is that we're locked in at 30 frames per second, and those of you who are playing this on the PC will get a feast for the eyes. Everything is fantastic, and although the game doesn't have a sense of urgency where you don't have somebody constantly telling you what to do, although it happens early on in the game, you do have enough time just to look at the beauty of the environment that you're in, and in that respect it makes it a lot more immersive. Far Cry 5 encourages exploration in the truest sense of the word. You could just be walking along and something will eventually happen. This world is alive, things are going on, people live in this county, and oftentimes those encounters will lead you to other, better, and bigger quests. So it is something that you do want to experience and take your time with, guys. There's a lot of things that happen that are really unscripted. Now, for the most part, Far Cry 5 is a very polished game, although I did notice sometimes when I would run into NPCs that the voice syncing was off a little bit, and just overall their performance was stale and very robotic, which is really weird since you're asked to be saving these people constantly. Also, on the PS4 version, I did notice a couple of hiccups in the frame rate and overall performance, but that was only when the action got really intense, and those were far and few between. But to be fair to the game, given how massive it is, and especially how many things go on simultaneously and at random, they could be forgiven for a few performance issues. Now, I hated having to climb those damn towers all the time in previous titles. Well, guess what, guys? They literally tell you they're not going to ask you to do that anymore.
I know what you're thinking, and no. I ain't gonna have you climbing towers all over the county for me, so don't worry. Also, try not to fall from up there.
Now, one of the staples of the Far Cry game, and in fact one of the reasons that I really got into it, was the fact that you can essentially get into any vehicle and just take off to wherever it is that you want to go. And here, I think they've refined the controls a little bit more. Most open world games seem to want to complicate the controls for some reason. Far Cry 5 has really refined them along with the other things that they refined, and being able to travel in the vehicles is a lot more fun, and you can tell that they've kind of dumbed it down a little bit to be able to bring in more players. I specifically love being able to just hop into a plane, take off from a steel kind of lake, and then just go off into the distance. You really get a nice bird's eye view of the beautiful landscapes in this game, and it is freaking awesome. And being able to land in another lake in another part of the county is amazing, which makes traveling across this beautiful landscape one of the best experiences about this game. I also have to say I love how much more organic Far Cry 5 is. Things just happen. You can go off in any order you want and just get involved in things. Firefights are incredible in this game. They are frenetic and exhilarating. NPCs are actually very smart. I have to say, this time around the game is incredibly difficult. So you are going to need to partner up with some of those locals that are going to help you take on some of these quests. Now, there is an increased difficulty, as I mentioned before, but it is one of the game mechanics. It actually encourages you to rally some of these people that live in Hope County in order to get them on your side and to your cause. They want to liberate their county just as much as you do, so utilize them, guys. They are amazing segments of this game that I absolutely loved, and they were brilliant. Now, just like any other open world, it does suffer from the same kind of thing that happens with every game that is huge or too big for the things that you have to do in it. You do have these side quests that get repetitive, certain convoy missions that get really stale. I recommend that maybe you do one or two of them and then stick to the main quest, because the story is pretty interesting. And one of the reasons that I didn't really talk about it is because I don't want to spoil the game for you. Overall, though, I'm very impressed with Far Cry 5. Not only is it a nice open world game, but it also has something to do with the setting. It's very unique. Now, do the antagonists in the story get kind of cliched? Yes, of course, the dialogue is a little bit cringeworthy, but overall, it is a very interesting story, and if you're a fan of the old Far Cry games, you're definitely gonna love this one. But most importantly, for those of you who haven't played a Far Cry game before, you can get right at home in this one without having played any of the previous titles. Alright everybody, so that's my official review on Far Cry 5. As always, I thank you for tuning in, and I'll see you on the next AGR's Pop Culture Reviews.
I don't claim to know God's plans, but I know a good thing when I see it. Getting quite a reputation, Deputy. You're the first good thing to happen to this valley in a long time.
A little help?
Are you trying to break your neck?
Seemed like a good idea at the time.